Hey Summoners! Today, we're diving into the twisted minds of top lane mains. You know, the players who treat League of Legends like their own personal therapy session, taking out all their pent-up rage on minions, turrets, and any poor soul that steps into their domain. If you've ever wondered what drives a player to main certain champions, stick around, because we're about to reveal the real reasons people pick these champs. Let's jump in! Alright, first up, we've got Malphite. If you main this big rock, congratulations! You're the kind of player who thinks standing still in a teamfight is a legitimate strategy. You love being unkillable, while your teammates flail around like they're trying to swim without arms. And let's be honest, you probably have a solid career in real life just sitting there, absorbing everything life throws at you. Like that one friend who always says they'll pay you back, but never does. Next, we have Darius. If you main Darius, you're probably the most toxic player on the Rift. Don't worry, we love you anyway. You think winning means turning the game into a bloodbath. Just remember, while you're out there hunting down that one guy who's 10 miles away, your teammates are praying you don't die trying. And if you ever get caught in the jungle, that's just the game's way of reminding you that your ego is bigger than your champion. Fiora mains, listen up. You're the player who takes 1v1s way too seriously. You think you're a god, and honestly, sometimes you might be, until you realize you've overcommitted, and suddenly your entire team is screaming at you in chat. You don't mind taking risks, but let's be real. That one risky play, you'll take it all the way to the fountain if it means you can flex on your enemies first. But hey, you gotta love the thrill of the chase, right? If you main Jax, you're living in a fantasy world where you think you're invincible. You love hitting late game because that's when you go from that one guy to an absolute monster. But remember, it's not just about the late game. It's about how many times you can get caught split pushing before your team reports you. Let's talk about Teemo. If you main Teemo, you're either a child or a sadistic monster. Probably both. You love causing chaos and watching your enemies rage quit as they step on your mushrooms. You get your kicks from ruining everyone's fun. And let's face it, you probably giggle every time you hear someone rage about you in all chat. You know you're a villain, and honestly, you wear that badge with pride. Kale. If you main Kale, you're either the most patient player on the planet, or someone who's just waiting for the perfect moment to pop off. You're sitting in the back, like you're waiting for the bus, while your teammates wonder if they should report you for being a useless support. Next up is Atrox. If you main Atrox, you're the kind of player who loves to feel like a god in every fight. You dive into the enemy team, screaming about your power and healing, only to realize you're basically a glorified piñata that can be taken down faster than your ult can reset. Just remember, your teammates might not be thrilled about you spending more time on your knees than in the fight. Kled, you're probably a bit chaotic and thrive on the thrill of diving into battle. You charge in on your trusty steed, thinking you're invincible, until reality hits and you realize you're just hoping your team is close enough to save you when you inevitably get in over your head. Now we have Cho'Gath. If you main Cho'Gath, you think being a giant monster makes you invincible. You love stacking your feast and turning enemies into snacks, but your team will definitely remind you when you forget to silence the enemy's AP carry. After all, nothing's worse than a fat monster that can't control his appetite. And trust me, your team will be serving up some hard truths. If you main Mundo, you're the player who thinks being unkillable is the ultimate strategy. You run headfirst into fights like you're charging a buffet, while your team frantically tries to figure out how to deal with your antics. Just remember, you might be a meat shield, but even the biggest hunk of flesh can't tank the combined wrath of 5 angry players. Rumble, you're that one player who thinks they can do it all. You love creating chaos in teamfights with your ultimate. But if you forget to manage your heat, you might just end up becoming a glorified paperweight. And trust me, your team will not let you forget that little oops. Set, you're probably the kind of player who loves flexing your muscles and dominating the lane. You enjoy brawling and throwing enemies around like rag dolls. But when you get caught in a 1v3, all that muscle doesn't mean much. Remember, it's not about how tough you look. It's about knowing when to back off. If you main Shen, you're the ultimate team player. You love to teleport in and save your allies at the last second, but let's face it, your teammates might not even realize you've arrived until it's too late. Remember, even the best ninjas can't save everyone. Sometimes you just gotta let that one go. Trendir, you're living life on the edge. You think you're invincible with your ult. But let's be honest, you're just a hair away from losing your cool when things don't go your way. When you inevitably die after overcommitting, don't say I didn't warn you. It's like watching a horror movie, and you're the lead character making all the bad decisions. Urgot, you're the type of player who thinks they can take on anyone. You love locking down enemies and executing them with your ultimate. But remember, just because you have a shotgun knee doesn't mean you're untouchable. You might end up being the one who gets shot down first. Yorick, you enjoy summoning ghouls and pushing lanes, but let's face it, your teammates might just roll their eyes when you decide to split push instead of joining teamfights. You're not a one-man army, you're just a guy with a shovel. And trust me, no one likes a pushy gravedigger. Garen mains, listen up. You're the kind of player who thinks spinning in circles is the ultimate tactic. Just remember that spinning may feel heroic, but it won't save you when you forget there's a whole enemy team waiting to take you down. Camille, you're the type who loves to brag about your mechanics while secretly waiting for the perfect moment to engage. You think you're the best player on the Rift until you realize the enemy team can outnumber you in the blink of an eye. But hey, at least you can blame it on your team not following your pings, right? Renekton, you're probably the player who thinks they're the top lane king. You love diving into fights, hoping your team will follow you into glorious battle. But remember, if you get too cocky with your combos, you might end up being the one on the dinner plate. Aurelia, you're the kind of player who thinks you can outplay anyone. You love dashing around and resetting your abilities, feeling like a true master of the blade. Just remember, when you dive into a fight thinking you're invincible, your teammates might be the ones getting a lesson in how not to follow a blade dancer. Orin, you're probably the guy who thinks forging items mid-fight is the ultimate flex. You love being the tanky presence that can initiate fights while crafting the perfect gear. Just remember, while you're busy building items, your team might be wondering if you can actually build a winning strategy. Nasus, you're the kind of player who believes stacking your Q makes you a god. You spend most of the game farming while your teammates pray you'll show up to the teamfight before they all get wiped. Mordekaiser, you're probably the one who thinks they're the ultimate champion of the Rift. You love grabbing people with your ult and dragging them to Brazil. But remember, that doesn't mean you can tank everything. Gangplank, you're basically living in your own private treasure hunt. You're obsessed with farming and stacking silver serpents, even if that means you ignore every teamfight until it's time to finally cash in. And let's be real, there's something satisfying about dropping barrels and watching them explode, even if no one else understands why you're always farming instead of fighting. Meaning Gnar means you're either a master of timing or just in it for the thrill of going mega and smashing people around. When you transform at the right moment, it's game-changing. When you miss, you're just a hyperactive gremlin. Still, every team loves the little guy who can go big when it counts. If you main Gragas, you're here for two things: knocking people around and bringing the party to every team fight. Bomba! Gwen mains are the ones who live for that sweet spot between chaos and control. You play with scissors, dashing in and out of fights, hoping no one realizes just how squishy you are. It's like watching someone craft art in the middle of a storm. Beautiful, but one wrong snip, and it's over. Eloi, you're basically a force of nature. You thrive on pulling entire teams into your zone, swinging tentacles like there's no tomorrow. People fear the ult, and you love it that way. No roast here. When an Eloi main hits a perfect ult, it's terrifying and impressive all at once. Jace mains are the tech-savvy perfectionists of the Rift. You're all about precision, making every hammer and cannon switch look seamless. But sometimes that flexibility is just fancy footwork that doesn't add up to much. Still, when you're landing those accelerated shock blasts, nobody's complaining except the enemy team. Maining Kennen means you love jumping into the fray, literally shocking the competition. You're the silent assassin turned Stormbringer, diving into the thick of it with a well-timed ult. Sure, you're squishy, but when you land that perfect ult, it's worth every risk. Sometimes you're just the spark that sets everything in motion. If you main Maokai, you plant saplings everywhere, creating your own little forest of chaos, and laugh as enemies fall into your traps. There's something satisfying about being the unmovable tank that nobody wants to mess with. Your ult might be slow, but when it hits, it's like watching nature itself take revenge. Pantheon is about one thing: Impact. You drop into fights like a meteor, and everyone feels it when you arrive. When you dive into the backline and actually live, it's heroic. When you don't, well, it's still an impressive entrance. You're here for glory, even if it sometimes means biting off more than you can chew. If you main Quinn in top lane, you know exactly what you're doing. You're here to be the relentless roamer, abandoning lane to find kills across the map. Sure, your team might feel like you're off on some solo quest, but they're just waiting for you to swoop in and tip the scales. Who cares if top lane hates you? You're too fast to care. Riven mains are the players who just love a challenge. You live for that perfect combo, pulling off animations and outplays like it's second nature. When you're on your game, you're practically untouchable. Just don't get too cocky when your health bar is low. You're still only human, even if your combos suggest otherwise. If you main Singed, you're all about being a pest. You run circles around the enemy team, poisoning everything in sight, and laugh when people actually try to chase you. Your team might think it's a strange strategy, but they can't deny how effective it is. After all, why fight head-on when you can just run away? Sion mains are in it for the pure, unfiltered power fantasy. You're a tank, you're undead, and you love smashing into things at top speed. When your ult hits, it's like a wrecking ball crashing into the enemy team. Tom Kench, you're basically the Rift's designated babysitter. You love eating your teammates to save them, even if they might not want the help. When you pull off the perfect save, you're a hero. When you don't, you're just the guy who interrupts everyone's fun. But hey, at least you keep things interesting. Trundle, you throw up your pillar to mess with everyone's plans and cackle as you steal stats from the enemy tank. You're a nightmare to deal with up close, but you're just as happy causing chaos from a distance. A good Trundle main knows that sometimes being a nuisance is just as valuable as being a hero. If you main Vayne in the top lane, everyone instantly hates you. You roll around dodging skill shots while slowly but surely whittling down your poor opponent's health. You know nobody wants you there. Volibear, you're the definition of brute force. You run in headfirst, fearlessly tanking hits and causing havoc. When you go full bear mode, there's not much that can stop you. Sure, your team might wish you'd wait before diving in, but where's the fun in that? Sometimes you just need to unleash the beast. Warwick, you got lost from jungle. Wukong, you're the ultimate trickster, always ready to pull a fast one. You're all about diving into the fight, throwing out your clone, and watching everyone scramble. When you hit that perfect ult to knock up half the enemy team, it's chef's kiss. And that's it! Whether you're smashing faces as Volibear or just running circles as Singed, top lane really does bring out the, unique side of everyone. So, next time you're in a game, just remember, every champion's got their quirks, and every top laner is a little bit different. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed roasting or relating to your main, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos. Bye!